So I'm going to arrange these components a little bit more. And I'm going to hide all these components that I have here, which is my vref components and the lines that I created here. Okay, so now that we have our structural grid, we're going to place the panels that should go on the top. And this will be pretty simple, as we are just going to use the subsurfaces we have here. And we're going to displace them perpendicularly to their normals. So I'm going to start doing that by finding the area centroid of each one of my subsurfaces by calling an area component. Okay. And then I'm going to call a surface closest point to retrieve the UV coordinates I need to make my evaluation, to retrieve the normal of each surface. So my sample points are going to be my centroids that I have here, and the base surface are going to be my subsurfaces that I have over here. Okay, and now what I get is these UV coordinates that are the ones that I need to do a surface evaluation. So now I'm going to go ahead and do that. So this component is asking me for a surface to evaluate, so it's going to be again my subsurfaces and my UV coordinates, which are going to be the ones that I have here. Okay, I'm going to hide this preview. Okay, so now I have under this output the normal of each one of my subsurfaces, which is the direction in which I want to move each of my panels. Sorry. So what I'm gonna do next is to call a move component, and the base geometries we're going to displace are again our subsurfaces we have over here. And now this T input is asking me for a translation vector, so I'm going to use this collection of vectors that I have here, but I'm going to call an amplitude component so I can specify the distance that I want to set those vectors. Sorry, to set for those vectors. So for this component, my base vector is going to be the ones that I have over here, and I'm just going to call a slider which will define the distance I'm going to displace, that I'm going to use to displace my surfaces, and I'm going to leave it like that, like 25. So I'm going to plug that here into my amplitude or length value, and then I'm just going to plug it into my move component. And as you can see here, now I have my surfaces being displaced. I'm going to hide these original subsurfaces. and I'm just going to zoom in a little bit. And I think we're having a couple of problems here. So the first one is that our panels are being displaced below our structural grid, which is opposite to what we're looking for, as we want them to be on top. And the second one, I'm gonna hide here my pipes to see this a little bit better. Is that we are having some intersections between my surfaces here, and this is because as I'm moving independently each surface with its normal, when you displace them you start creating this kind of intersections. So we're gonna have to solve this in a different way. So I'm gonna get rid of this move component that I did here, and also all these evaluations and amplitude component here that I have. So what we're gonna do is something more simple. We're gonna use our main surface that we have over here, and we're just gonna offset this surface by a certain amount, and then we're going to subdivide it again into subsurfaces. So I'm gonna go ahead and do that. I'm gonna call an offset component. And in my offset distance I'm gonna put a slider, and as my normals are looking downwards, which is why our subsurfaces were displaced below our structural grid, what I'm gonna do here is simply add my value with a negative distance. Sorry, I'm gonna put this to -1. I'm gonna leave this one in 0. And what this should do is offset my surface in an upward position, more or less like this. And the next thing I'm gonna do is just to again subdivide this offset surface I have in some subsurfaces. So I'm gonna use the same values that I have here for my divide domain component that I have. So I'm just gonna copy this component and feed my new offset surface to it. Okay. I'm gonna hide all these components here. And I'm going to turn on my structural grid that I have here, sorry. And now, as you can see, my panels are being placed on top of my structural grid and without any intersections. So as these are supposed to be glass panels, ideally all these surfaces should be planar. So we can perform a small analysis just to check which one of these ones are actually planar surfaces and which ones are not. So to do that, I'm going to call a planar component, which would be this one. And what this component does is to test the planarity of a surface. So I'm gonna plug in all my subsurfaces here, and what I get here as an output is, sorry, I'm going to hide this preview of the planes that I have just to see this better. And again, as what I get as an input, sorry, as an output is a list of Boolean values telling me false whenever my surface is not planar and true whenever my surface is planar. So what I'm gonna do next here is to use a dispatch component just so we can have them separated, and I'm going to fit in as my list to dispatch my subsurfaces.